Hello. Welcome back to Come On In, AYA Cancer Unfiltered. This episode is going to be a little different from our previous episodes. Usually we have important information and guest speakers who can help you with AYA cancer. And in the second half of this episode, that will all be the same. However, in the first half of the episode, we're going to list all the important questions you should ask your doctor during treatment. The idea is, if you have an appointment with your provider, you can listen to this episode before you meet with them so you know what to ask. You can even play this episode for them and pause after each question if it's too much to remember. We'll be having Lauren Listowskis from GRYT Health as our guest today. They're going to offer some insight on health goals for the treatment phase and offer some advice on self-advocacy. So, let's start with questions to ask your doctor during treatment. First off, please don't feel shy about asking any of these. It's your care team's job to answer them. The questions are there any changes I should make in my current diet? What are common food-related symptoms I can expect? Should I be taking a multivitamin or any supplement? Can I continue using the supplements and vitamins I'm currently taking? If my treatment is causing me to vomit often, should I be concerned about getting necessary nutrients? Should I try liquid meal replacements if I have trouble keeping solid food down? What if I just don't feel like eating much for a couple of days after treatment? Next, we have questions to ask your doctor if you need surgery, read by Lauren Listowskis.
What will the surgery be like? How will it affect my body? Where will the incision be? What's the healing process going to be like after surgery? How long will my recovery take? What complications can happen during or after surgery? Do I need to go on a special diet before or after my surgery? What are my pain management options? What are the side effects of the pain medication? How long will I have to stay in the hospital? Will I need to stay overnight? Are there accommodations that allow my family or friends to stay with me overnight at the hospital? What type of dressing or bandage will I have? How often should it be changed? Will I have drains at my incision site, and how do I take care of them? Will I need someone to help me, or will the doctor take care of that after surgery? Will I need a catheter for any medication, and how do I take care of that? Should someone help me, or will the doctor take care of that after surgery? What changes or differences can I expect to see the first few days after surgery?
Lastly, here's questions to ask your doctor if you need chemotherapy. There are over 80 types of chemo. What kind or kinds will I receive? How will my chemotherapy be given? By injection, infusion, orally, or topically? Do I have any other treatment options I should consider? What are the pros and cons with this chemotherapy? How long will my infusions usually take? What side effects are common with the chemotherapy I'm receiving? What medications are available to me for side effects like nausea? Will I lose my hair, and how soon will that happen? Should I be exercising during chemo? Is it safe to have sex during chemo? And lastly, this is not a question, but you should insist your doctor sign a consent form with all the treatment information you've discussed. This stuff is important to know later on. That was the end of our questions. Remember to take those to your doctor during your next appointment. We'll also have a link to a PDF of them in the description box below. Now we're going to discuss your health goals during treatment.
What kind of goals should you be setting now while you're in treatment?
That's hematologist and oncologist Dr. Leonard Sender.
Here are a few, but feel free to add more on your own. Make arrangements for post-operative care in the hospital and at home. If you're having any kind of catheter, Be sure to get clear instructions how to deal with it. Ask your team to explain everything that's going to happen to you in treatment and write it down in order. We call that a roadmap. You deserve instructions and a map for this journey, and it is our job to give those instructions to you. If you've had surgery, ask your doctor what potential post-operative side effects might arise and make a plan to be ready for those just in case. If you have any side effects or health concerns once you're at home, make sure your team has let you know who to reach out to and the best way to contact them.
We'd like to finish this episode by asking our guests David Craig and Lauren Listowskis about self-advocacy. Advocating for yourself, for your needs and wants, is vitally important to ensuring that your cancer journey goes the way you want it to. However, speaking up and asking questions can be challenging for many AYA patients. Why is it so important to advocate for yourself?
I'll start, and then Lauren, really want to honor the lives that you're changing and make sure your voice is the louder one on this. But the thing that I'll share is there are so many things about going through cancer as a young adult that aren't provided to us or talked openly about. For example, cancers that are more prevalent in young adults, like testicular cancer and Hodgkin's lymphoma, also have the highest suicide rates of any cancer. And so there's a whole aspect of mental health that isn't being addressed. And so, from my perspective now, 20 years into this journey, the reason it's so important to advocate is because nobody knows what we're feeling more than we do. And hiding those things doesn't allow people to help us. And so, Lauren, I'll hand it to you, because learning how to be open about those things is the most important thing we can do to advocate.
Right. Thanks, Dave. So for me, the importance of advocating for yourself really is a matter of you are the expert of yourself. You are the expert of your body. Yes, you have a care team, you have doctors, you have nurses, we have research, we have medicine, but you know your experience best. You know what you're going through. And unless we advocate for what we're going through and are really open and vulnerable with our care team, they could be missing medical things that have implications down the road. And one big thing, especially, is mental health. If you're not advocating for yourself and saying, hey, I'm struggling, or if you don't have people in your life to see that maybe you're a little off, you're just going to continue to bury these things. You're not going to get the help you might need. And ultimately, I found when I started being an advocate, one of the main things I found and saw was I'm not alone. I'm not alone in questioning things, whether it's medical questions or questions about how I'm feeling, of why did this happen to me? When am I ever going to be happy again? And when I finally said these things out loud, I had people right there behind me saying, oh yeah, same. I've felt those feelings. They're real. They're valid. You're absolutely right for feeling these things. And so if you don't say the things out loud and you don't tell people how you're really doing honestly, then you're just going to be at a loss and you're never going to find the help and support you need.
What can happen if you don't advocate for yourself? Is there any danger?
I guess I'll share one example. So, I started hormone therapy when I was 30 years old, and it was my urologist that was sort of managing that for me. And I was on the therapy and following their treatment for 8 years when my brother was diagnosed with low testosterone, and he lived in a different state and saw a set of doctors that was more focused on quality of life. And he came back to me and he asked me all these questions about, different lab levels and what's my estrogen count and what's my vitamin D count and all these things that in 8 years on hormone therapy, nobody on my team had ever asked me. And so my brother's like, you got to go get these things checked. And so I did. And I learned that my body was converting part of my testosterone therapy into estrogen.
Thanks, David. How about you, Lauren?
So I think it's important to advocate because there can be implications if you don't. You can really be put in tough situations with, a care team, or feeling stuck, or feeling like you don't have choices, when ultimately you should be making decisions and advocating for yourself with your care team and participating in shared decision making. And so I just think if you're not advocating for yourself, or if you're not advocating for other people, you're really just missing out on opportunities to hopefully get your questions answered, to hopefully achieve the best quality of life possible. And ultimately, I choose to keep advocating and will continue to be an advocate because, unfortunately, in the cancer world and even in the AYA space, there are people that have died. And I advocate and I'm their voice because their voice has been taken from them. And all that remains is their story.
I think many people feel uncomfortable confronting doctors. Do you have any advice on that front? How do you get to the point where you can start to think of them as health partners?
Right, absolutely. So it's really just, it can take time. It can be really nerve-wracking because when you think of confrontation, you immediately think of something negative. But a confrontation can also be just a conversation with your care team. And ultimately, it's your body, it's your experience. If something is going wrong or you don't like it, then you can find a new doctor. And yes, it can be scary. Yes, it can be a total pain in the butt to try and find a second opinion or a new care team. But I always like to kind of use kind of an analogy of, all right, if you hired a handyman and he was supposed to fix your toilet, but it's still leaking, are you going to continue hiring them, or are you going to find someone new? Obviously, you're going to find someone new. And why should we not be doing the same with our healthcare team when we're looking at bigger things than just a lawn or a leaky faucet? We're looking at your life.
When should you confront a doctor and ask for clarification?
Yeah, so for me, if I have any confusion, a question, even questioning myself of, did I hear that right? Or, when it comes to medication, or, something to help with a side effect of medication, wait a second, did they tell me to take 2 of these laxatives twice a day, or 3 pills 4 times a day? And if you have any inkling of, oh crap, I don't remember, or this is a little confusing, I always ask. Always, always, always. And for me, I'm the type of person that I like to just get it out of the way. So even though I know my doctor might be in clinic and they're not going to answer their actual phone, I'll leave a voicemail. Or even now, what's really easy, just get on my phone and send a message through the portal. And it can be really scary when you're starting a new treatment regimen or you're fresh out of surgery and you don't know what's urgent and what's not. As somebody in the medical field, I can promise you a doctor would much rather get lots of non-urgent questions in a row and very quickly than you say, I don't want to bother them, or it's not that big of a deal, and something actually happened when something is truly urgent.
You have a voice to tell the doctors how you feel. You should never feel that they are above you.
That's Jania Riekel, oncology social worker and 3-time cancer patient.
I would tell them, I would say, you're not hearing me. And if you can't listen to what I have to say and my feelings with this, I would like to see another doctor. And if they say, well, there isn't another doctor, then you say, then how do we work this out? How do you hear what I am going through? How do you hear what I'm trying to explain to you or tell you? Because, yes, many of us don't live in cosmopolitan cities where you can go to another oncologist, right? Some live in the Midwest, there's only one doctor, right? And you have to deal with that doctor. I think communication is key, and you need to advocate for yourself. We all are equal. And I think just because someone has a degree that's higher than yours doesn't mean that they can't be humble. So I think just confronting them, having what is called a courageous conversation.
Remember, speaking up for yourself is the best way to ensure that things will go smoothly. The most important person in this process is you. And that concludes this episode. We've included a PDF of all those questions in the description box below. Next time, we talk about sexual health and intimacy during treatment. Tune in to Treatment, Oncofertility, and Sexual Health for more information. See you next time. A podcast for patients 15 to 39. This podcast was produced by Reimagine Well with funding by 70K. Creative producer is Emma Grace Eisenman with video production by Sedona Cruz. Our creative director is Roger Holzberg. Our content supervisor is Adele Sender. Our project manager and coordinator is Pamela Primessa Karstens. Our social media manager is Sedona Cruz. Our social media intern is Ryan Meglino. Based on the Adolescents and Young Adult Cancer and Oncofertility Guides by Reimagine Well. Audio and video editing by Graham Karstens. Digital artwork by graphic design by Sarah Gray. A big thank you to our medical experts, Dr. Leonard Sender, Dr. Lakshmi Kondapalli, Jocelyn Harrison, RDN, CCLS. Lauren Creel, MSW, NPH Chief Operations Officer of Cactus Cancer Society. David Craig, CEO of GRYT Health, and Lauren Listauskas, Vice President of Community at GRYT Health. Gilarakis, President of the Stephen G. Cancer Foundation. Angela Gilarakis, PhD, founder of the Stephen G. Cancer Foundation. And Blake Dirksen. Thank you. This podcast is possible because of you. I've been your host, Marie Sad, and thank you for listening.